So we're opening the first. We're open. Yeah, like I would have put it on the full screen, but for some reason, I also lost connection. Work while there's no connection. So
yeah,
give me a second. But basically, second is on clause 22, protecting our non-partisanship. Round 3 is a policy proposal in general. Now I'll try to reconnect and open the first round of the debate in the meantime, which is on excluding tobacco, arms, pornography, and alcohol companies, etc. Start with Germany, you recognize.
I was wanting to add, maybe this is not something we need to have a policy to give much with BNC as well, because I think that in certain countries there may be other companies you also just want to approach, and then you have to redo the whole international policy again, rather than, I mean, you have to draft up the contract anyways for the IS, so maybe that.
Thank you, EVP Germany. Turkey present as of now. We will, yes, if there are no more points in this round, return to the governing body or not. EVP Croatia, you are recognized.
As far as the version especially in the context of the EU, a lot of what these companies that are listed here, especially the A's and C's, are quite prohibited already from acting. In terms of,
as far so at the same time, while this is sensible, as Yana was explaining a few minutes ago, it doesn't really make that big of a difference, to be fair, because, you know, do you know of any session that was really sponsored by a pornography company? I don't. So, yeah, again, that's the point, just the practicalities, although
Thank you, EVP Croatia. Any more points for this round of debate? EVP Belgium.
These maybe not add up to some sort of big overhaul. And that's
yeah, just in Belgium is quite aligned with this policy. I think it's what, for example, in Belgium you have this company called
zero alcohol. Sponsored by a company which is large company, which gets all like you kind of something else because they primarily
Thank you, EVP Belgium. To answer these points, yeah, the floor is yours.
Unit exists when they organize an international session. Actually, at the governing body meeting, when we discussed making this policy proposal, we also discussed putting it instead in that agreement as a baseline. But we opted for a policy proposal because any maybe more specific things could be put in that agreement, but we really want to have a baseline that is for all international sessions, but also maybe that other sessions that are not bound by this policy might take as an example as how to fundraise. So that's why we wanted to put it in policy. We also have the code of ethics, which already is in place, which also holds up for all our activities. Then EYP Croatia, the added value of the policy, because it's already practice, or like what is the likelihood of a pornography company sponsoring an EYP session? You're right. I don't think it's very likely. That specific type of company was already in the policy, so that's not actually my personal proposal, but I think we can keep it in. I think if, again, one of the aims of the policy is to put standard practice in writing, so that's, I think, is actually the added value. And then EYP Belgium, I think for me, what the aim of the clause is that companies who are really primarily an alcohol producing company are not sponsors of international sessions. So, for example, we wouldn't like an international session to be sponsored by Heineken or something. But in the end, it's the governing body that interprets also the policy. So I think in cases like this, when it's unclear whether a company falls under this guideline, it can be a conversation between the head organizers and the GB and the IO, and we can see. I think that's all the points.
Yeah, so we will be opening the second round of the debate on protecting our non-partisanship. Do we have any entities who want to make points? I see Portugal. Portugal, you're recognized.
Hello, everyone. So this will be about clause C, which, okay, such as academic content, for example, in our upcoming nationals and everyone. This could be what it is having a topic that is kind of sponsored. So it's kind of like clarifying this kind of these sponsored topics, because it's a very good way to get sponsored topic that is kind of
There's a direct response by the governing body, I think, first.
Yeah, I thought I'd directly respond just to prevent maybe the rest of the debate. Also being about this, because I can directly answer that sponsored topics are absolutely not banned by this policy. It's one of the main ways we get sponsorship across the network. I think the key word in that clause is really that the partner shall not have direct or unrestricted control. So rather than, it would ban, for example, telling a partner, blank, we have a blank topic, you can fill it in any way you like. That is what this policy prevents. So it's really about direct or unrestricted control, but co-decision, a partner suggesting a topic and you maybe changing it a little bit or finding a topic together that you both agree on, that's absolutely still should happen, because that's the main way we raise funds.
Thank you. Any more points for this round of debate? Serbia, you're recognized.
We have a session being certified by, or having like as a session sponsor really something in any way connected NATO.
There is a direct response by EYP Croatia.
So, to continue playing devil's advocate, we would like to partially agree with the distributor.
Because there is a good argument there. If you're just talking about arms and not wanting any arms manufacturers, so you don't want anyone who is in any sense in the world. What do you think of NATO then? NATO is, yes, doing mostly peacekeeping business at the moment. Well, maybe not at the moment, in the future it does. And what they also do, they do a lot of procurement relating to arms. And they
any maybe other points like these ones, which I will get back to, don't worry, but in the next round of debate.
Yeah, there is.
Mainly we had kind of the same question from Serbia and Croatia about NATO and whether we have a stance on NATO. NATO is a government organization. It doesn't produce arms, so it's not prohibited by this policy to be funded by NATO. Like any government or any government organization, they sometimes make decisions that we can have a debate about how agreeable they are, but they are not an arms producing entity. And they also, I mean, I want to prevent getting into specifics of every sponsor that could or could not be covered by this policy, but just about NATO, because it was asked twice. It's a very small amount of funding currently of the ISs. It's like 5% of an IS budget at the moment. All right.
This will be.
It's maybe not entirely related. Now we're bringing up sponsorships for ISs and so on, and not bringing the organization in jeopardy. I would maybe like to make us think maybe for the next BNC also about the relationship between the IO and the NC, and not only the NC's responsibility in partnerships, as it's now really one side where now we're thinking about partnerships in general and how they cannot like harm the organization. And it might be a good idea to for the next BNC to think about how to resolve these issues, maybe write some policy to or just to reflect on it, because I think some NCs might be in the same situation where a partner conflicts with an IO's partner, and to see how we resolve that.
Anyone
Yeah, like you already said yourself, not fully related to debate, but it is related to partnerships between the IO and the NC. Yeah, any feedback is taken into account, and we would be happy to discuss. And if you with UAP Belgium at any point, so let's do that.
Okay, this will conclude the debate. Then the boss
Okay, so we have RS, HR, BA. Okay, thank you very much. Since we counted 28 in present physically and 3 by proxy, this would mean that with 27 votes in favor, 1 against, and 27 in favor, 1 abstention, and 3 against. This has successfully passed. And we will be moving on to the topic of the debate, which will be chaired by Andor. Cool.
Okay, so the next agenda item number 15, update to the policy on international sessions aligning. Oh, no, sorry. Once again.
What? The next item of the debate should be I don't know what is happening. Give me a second. So we were at this. It's complaints mechanism 16.
16.
I guess I once again do not know Roman numerals. But what are you doing?
Yeah, we know.
We do know which one is it, but we just have to find where we have put it in the slides. Well, yeah. Yes, there's a big jump. Maybe since it is twice 15, I assume 16 hasn't copied correctly, but we can fix that real quick. We will just present straight from this, then it's fine.
Okay, so not agenda item 15, agenda item 16, restructuring of the complaints mechanism, the proposing entity being the governing body, the spokesperson being Jarne. It's on the page 36 of the meeting booklet, and it's a topic of debate. Jarne, the floor is yours.
Thanks. So it's me again. The statement of the debate is the current setup of the complaints mechanism falls short in protecting and ensuring safety within UIP by only allowing the individual that is harmed by the behavior to submit a complaint. And the debate should be about, should complainants be able to nominate a third person to go through the complaints procedure in their place? The history behind this is that the policy on safeguarding safety and dignity in UIP, or the PSSD, or the SAFE policy, was passed by the BNC in 2019, and it established the SAFE core team as well as the complaints mechanism that handles complaints of behavior that breaches the safety policy. There have been multiple updates to the policy, like at the Spring BNC meeting in 2022, but the complaints mechanism has never been updated. And the rationale that I would like to get your input on, whether we maybe should make this an update, so it's not a policy proposal, it's just a debate, is that the policy says the person subjected to behavior can make a complaint. So only if you've been directly affected can you file a complaint. And this is quite a heavy process that can take quite a long time, from filling out the complaint form, doing interviews, reviewing an initial report, waiting for a decision by the governing body, then the governing body communicating their decision, then you maybe appealing the decision. Overall, this can take several months. And what if an individual is not able to go through this lengthy process? There are many reasons imaginable. Maybe the event that they went through is something that they don't want to relive, so they want to nominate another person to do it for them. Or maybe any other reason, maybe they're in a hospital, maybe they're extremely busy, or maybe there's other reasons. We don't have to go into the specifics, but it's more like, what if they are unable? Should they be able to nominate a third person to go through the process for them? This, just an FYI, the intention is not that anyone can then just submit a complaint about anything they've seen. It's still that the person going through the whole procedure would be given consent to do so by the person harmed. And yeah, the rationale is that as the mechanism continues operating with several complaints per year, it needs to be adapted maybe every year to fit the needs of the network. And we think this is a need, and we would like to hear your views on it. Oh, a possible action plan is that we can propose a policy change to the policy of safeguarding safety and dignity. And
yeah, thank you, Janne. Do we have any statements? We do. So we will start from Sweden and then move down to Spain. You have 3 minutes.
So thank you, everybody, for coming up with this proposal. The Board of Europe Sweden is really positive about this. We believe this is a good way in ensuring the safety of our events. However, we also like to share concern about the fact that essentially, or to at least our understanding, anyone could be that third person. We think that that person in question should have a clear understanding of what the complaints mechanism is and what that person is about to go through. So essentially, our suggestion to this would be in implementing maybe a clause or a requirement to, for example, the NESP or an NSP to take on such a job as having the knowledge required and experience is something that should not be ignored for such work. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikos. And as promised, moving to
So BYP Spain understands the reasoning and actually shares the aim of the potential proposal, but at the same time we have some concerns. Yeah, like we wonder in which ways the new complaint mechanism will be to reporting. Says that yes, I think that is not like the person first of all, yeah, like we wondered the main one. So like, how would those two things be different? And then secondly, how the person actually does their duty properly, because personally outside of my I have seen some situations in which a person had to go through a very uncomfortable situation like this, like reporting something, and basically a third person was in charge of doing that. They nominated, like they trusted that, and basically a third didn't. The situation became even worse. So again, we welcome the proposal. So we are open to hearing whatever you have. We would also like to.
Thank you, Spain. Since there are no more statements, we are moving back to the proposing entity.
You cannot respond.
You can direct respond to statements.
I think there were two. First of all, thank you for the statements, and thank you for being positive about the idea behind the topic of the debate. So thanks for that. I think there's a similar concern that you both have, which is about the reliability of the person who would be nominated and how we can ensure this. I think if the person is nominated by the person who was harmed by the behavior, there's already a degree of trust, at least from the person who was harmed. But I understand maybe the need for an additional clause. I don't know if I want to make it so restrictive personally that we say only ESPs or NSPs can do it, but maybe we can think about a clause saying this person should be a person of reliability and empathy, something along those lines, which is also the criteria for being ESP, for example. And then you Spain had a question about reporting versus complaints. A report can be made by anyone. So if you have witnessed behavior, if you have heard about behavior, if you, if there's anything you would like to share, you can report it, and it's just noted down and no action is taken, because if action is to be taken, then you submit a complaint and you put the complaints mechanism in motion. And currently, that specific part can only be done if you have been victimized by something. Whereas now, with this debate, we are exploring whether maybe that can also be put in motion for the person. If I understood.
Thank you. Yeah, so we have actually a debate structure. Round 1 and 2 reserved for the topic of the possibility of allowing nomination of a certain person, and the third round of debate is a general one. So we are going to start with round 1, possibility of allowing nomination of a third person. Please stick to the debate structure so that we can be as efficient as possible. Every recognition, you have 30 seconds, and then we are moving on. So debate round number 1, all NCs that have points to make, please raise your placards. Okay, so we are going to start from Sweden, then the Netherlands, and then Slovenia, and then move to Turkey.
Thank you for your answer. When we mentioned the fact about ESPs and NSPs, it was mainly thinking about bias. When situations arise, well, conflicts are created and tensions as well. So our idea was essentially that asking someone else, for example, a friend or someone you would trust, would most likely, or to my ears, sounds like a friend or someone close. But in a situation of conflict, then how do you keep the bias? And outside of that, given that your friend is, of course, or will most likely try their best to get maybe a form of payback, revenge, I don't know, that's just an assumption. But yeah, just about the bias thing. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a direct response from Norway.
So I do think that, yeah, as has been mentioned by Yarn as well, like we would most likely nominate someone that you trust deeply. And I do not think that it is a negative thing to have someone who cares about you deeply do something like this in your place, because who is going to be your best advocate if not your friend? Although someone you trust doesn't necessarily have to be a friend either. But I do think it's too restricted to say ESPs or NSPs, because you're not guaranteed that the ESP or the NSP has elicited a sense of trust in you as for like in yeah.
Thank you, Norway. And as promised,
I was more thinking about the practicality of like authorizing this third person individual, like with we already kind of procedure in mind, and because I do think it's a valuable like addition to the process of complaint procedure, but it's more, would it make the process even longer because this person first has to be authorized, like maybe like check like is this a valid source? So I was just thinking the practicality of it.
Thank you. And as promised, moving to Slovenia.
Thank you. Yeah, first of all, I just want to say that UAP Slovenia fully supports this debate and kind of like seeing where it's going to go, because
Ask if there would be some people, some people of our central needed in order for the person to represent me, the third person perspective that you hear in order to actually so that every situation
Slovenia, could you please repeat like the last 20 seconds?
the person affected by the behavior in order to level be applied to every situation in order to
Thank you. And we will take 2 more points, one of them being Turkey.
Going to withdraw, that was the same as Norway. Sorry, Sweden.
Okay, so we will take 2 more points beside one from Turkey. And obviously Switzerland and Germany. Switzerland and Germany.
Okay, so I wanted to take up this opportunity to maybe talk about possibilities of this clause also involving external parties of BYP being able to go through the complaint mechanism, because in this case we are dealing, or like minors do are involved in EYP events, and then I could imagine that maybe parents or other kinds of relatives would like to get involved in this mechanism, and I understand as well like their position in this. So in case this was also something that you were thinking about, it would be interesting to know how you're going to how this is going to be accounted for in order to also make them understand what the complaint mechanism is and everything. Thank you.
UYP Germany very much agrees with this topic of debate. Our job as entities is to protect our members, and sometimes we've had also some incidences where the people who were harmed by some other people's behavior, they did not feel comfortable to go through this whole process of submitting a complaint and reliving all of those events. So we really much agree with allowing a third individual to go through a complaint procedure, because we help our members with that. We ease the process. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for all your constructive points. I think there was Sweden and Norway about the topic of bias. I think this person doesn't have to be objective or unbiased, because they are in the process to represent the interests of the person they are replacing, that they are advocating for. And in this whole process, we also hear from the person who the report is about, the person who has to respond to the complaint, and also then the interviews and all the information that is gathered is made into a objective report, and then the governing body weighs both sides and makes a decision. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an unbiased person, which is why I think that opening it to externals is also a good possibility. I don't think we should restrict this person as long as they are reliable and trustworthy, which a parent or friend or anyone that the person harmed trusts would be, because the way the process works is there's kind of two sides or multiple sides with also witnesses being interviewed. So it doesn't have to be unbiased. It's just one of the sides of the story, if that makes sense. The Netherlands asked about the procedure. I haven't thought about the details yet. It's a very initial idea that I get your input on. I don't think it make the procedure more lengthy. In the current procedure, we already sometimes, not the whole interview process and everything, but the filling out of the complaint is sometimes already done by someone else. For example, a member of the Safe Court team who has a call or conversation and fills out the complaint form for you. For example, if the incident has occurred not long ago, and then it's nicer maybe to have it in a call where we fill out the complaints form for you. So that already happens sometimes in the procedure. Then Slovenia, I think, asked about the potential prep to gather necessary information. Definitely that happens in the process. The interview is scheduled with the complainant at a time when it suits them and when they can recount their experience, or in this case, recount the experience of the person they are nominated by. And also there's multiple interviews with both witnesses, the complainant, the respondent. So there's a lot of information gathering before a report is made. And in this case, report, I mean a document describing the incident and not a report, as in if you want to report something. And then EOP Germany very much agree. It's, as a youth organization, specifically our job to keep everyone safe. So thanks for that. Let's go.
Is very much regarding the consent of it. We discussed this with our NSB when we were looking through the BNC proposals. And it was said that she had had a case like this where the victim was not reachable. So it was very difficult in that sense. So my question is, I think it'd be very important when writing the full proposal that the consent is clearly written. And it's not just like, oh, yes, this is the person, I trust this person. And it's like a very, very formal kind of document. But secondly, in what way would you deal with this if the victim would then be consent-wise?
Actually sending back reports to usually as respond to the give them an update. Where with that, would you then actually reach out to the victim instead of the complainant, or would you be actually following it?
Would you be following up with the person who had made the complaint, or would you be following up with the victim themselves in a situation, or where would that go?
So in the current policy, as far as I remember, 1 or 2 members of the IRCST should help the victim to report the situation. In this case, if this becomes a policy proposal, it gets adopted, what would this put the members of the IRCST in this, because their function is to help the victim in this? Thank you.
points and questions. I think the point made by Luxembourg is really important. I think formalizing the permission or the consent in some way would be a good way to ensure that you know the person nominated is really has the consent of the person harmed by the behavior to do this. Also, of course, the person harmed can withdraw this also maybe at any stage if they feel like they don't want to pursue it anymore. They can, of course, withdraw their permission for the nominated person to go through the procedure and just stop the procedure. In terms of I think the second part was more like, what if the person harmed becomes unreachable? I'd have to think about that. And I think it's really related to the points also made by Ireland. What role would this person still play? Would they be completely out of the picture and nominate this other person and then not be in the picture anymore? I think that might not be the best course of action. I think it would be good to keep them in the loop in some way, and maybe, for example, by the final reports, giving them at least the possibility, for example, of reading it. And also, if they don't want to, and their advocate does it for them, that's also fine. But at least giving them the possibility would, I think, be a good practice. Oh, sorry, there was also a point by Turkey, by EYP Turkey. I think the role of the members of the Safe Court team, so the division of the Safe Court team, which you pointed out, the complaints support team, their role would not really change. And there would still be one or two members taking the case, doing the interviews, helping the person go through the procedure, and whether they are helping the person who was directly affected or whether they're helping their advocate, as it were, I think it would be the same process.
Thank you, Rene. Now we are moving into debate topic number 3, general debates.
So I think hopefully we'll see a proposal for this for the next BNC meeting. I would, or EYP normally would at least be very positive to that. Then I hope that and then I hopefully it passes as well. And then I hope that we all as NCs can contribute to that. There's not a culture of like pressuring like the victim to like, oh, but there is this like avenue as well. Like, so you should, you know, start up this process by nominating someone. That being said, if I was a victim, it would be much nicer to know that there is a third party, or that I can nominate a third party, because if not, then if I did not want to relive that experience, but then I would feel like, oh, if I don't do anything, then this might really negatively affect the network, or this person might harm someone else later, and that becomes a lot of responsibility. So giving this like option really lowers the threshold for reporting about something that cases that definitely should be reported to make our network more safe. And so yeah, really hope to see a proposal for this next BNC meeting.
Perfect. Just to follow up from the point that was just made, by Yerna, basing on its wording, UIP Ireland are also asking if we could take it a step further, as something that we have discussed in the board is getting a safe reports and incidents being reported to the National Committee of the person, of the respondent. As just for an example, we've had an issue with one of our members acting abroad, and we weren't made aware of it, but in the case of the actual event, we would have probably taken action within our own NC. So I'm just would like to ask other NCs how they feel about this, how they feel about getting the complaints being reported to the National Committee of the respondent also.
interesting decision. Since Switzerland was the first to actually get to the direct response placard, we will go to Switzerland.
Okay, thank you very much, EYP Ireland, for bringing up this point. However, I'm not fully sure how this correlates to the current discussion that we're having, because that would involve right now we're discussing the perspective very much from someone wanting to make a complaint and not necessarily other people going to make the complaint for them without the consent. I think that would raise the question of being able to not only hand in a report but a complaint in case you're not involved in this, which this is just what I wanted to add to this. But then again, I would like to have that discussion too.
EYP Switzerland debate that's not entirely in the scope of the debate, but now it's been brought up. I would like to respond. This is something that EYP
the GP for this proposal and very much supports the intention behind it, even though if there's some specifics that need to be still tackled. But we do believe that this is a very important issue. But to echo some of the previous points, the consent, from my perspective, also like very important in ensuring a way to kind of maintain communication with the victim to the extent that you can still kind of ensure that they're okay with different like steps taken in the process. So maybe the nominated person could serve a bit more as a spokesperson instead of kind of taking over the place of the victim in a kind of in the previous complaint process.
Thank you. Okay, and actually.
I'll first respond to the points made by Norway and Finland, which are a bit more directly related, and then I'll get back to Ireland and Belgium and Switzerland. Thanks. I think exactly what Finland mentions, it's very important to maintain communication with the victim in some way to make sure they agree with the steps taken, just like was brought up by Luxembourg and Ireland. So we'll try to write a policy proposal, European Norway, that kind of builds in this safeguard. And thank you also, European Norway, for pointing out that this would lower the threshold and that victims would maybe feel more comfortable coming forward. I think something that really ties into that is that this possibility should be communicated very clearly, which is, of course, where event safe persons play a role when they explain the possibilities and the possible courses of action that people have. Then I think the other part of the debate was a bit more about sharing information with NCs. I'll first respond to EYP Belgium and then to EYP Ireland. EYP Belgium, the NC would like to be made aware of any sanctions made against a member of EYP Belgium by the Safe Core team, you said. Just small correction, I know what you mean, but the sanctions are taken by the GB and the Safe Core team just gives us the information and gathers the information. But if an individual is sanctioned by the GB, you mentioned also like if they are kicked out, we would like to know. This has never happened. We almost never have expelled a person from EYP. I can share that the sanction we usually take is that the respondent to a complaint cannot be at the same event as the person who made the complaint. All information to enforce this measure is shared on a need-to-know basis. So everyone who needs to know in order to make this measure successful will be made aware. And in this case, is that the HR officer of the international office, because they have access to the member platform and they can see also if people apply to the same session that shouldn't be at the same session, and then the respondent is asked to withdraw. And I really understand the wish of NCs to be in the know about us, but to protect everyone's privacy, this is really only shared on a need-to-know basis, and we can enforce these measures without having the NC informed, because the most severe measure that we usually take, making sure people cannot be at the same event, and let us go into the know. So really hoping for your understanding behind that thought process. Now, I know the situation in Ireland is a bit different, maybe because in your country there exists, but correct me if I'm wrong, a legal obligation for you to report this. I think that I understand that, and I think that might be something we can discuss bilaterally with the Safe Core team and with you. And if there's other NC that have such a legal obligation, we can discuss this. And we can see what the possible, kind of manage to explain this because people are learning and improving from prevent attending the same event, and we can enforce that sanction without bringing more people in the know than just this one person at the international office. Did I miss anything? Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Art. So with that,
the elections workshop. Do we have the facilitators of the workshops currently here? Joao? Yeah?
Okay. Yeah, that's everybody, I think.
Okay. So I will give the floor to you to decide where is happening. Where what is your...
Sure. Okay. Khalil and Jean, you guys stay here. Is that okay? You have your flip charts, materials, and the projector. Yeah. Then I would ask Lucas and myself to move to the other thing. Which one? Sorry, fair enough. You guys want to introduce it? CRS, right? Sorry, outreach, CRS. Yes. Outreach is here, CRM is over there as our GP election. All right. And guys, after that, we will be having a coffee break. So per plan, 10:45 to 11 will be break time. But given that workshops, like we will give you exactly 45 minutes, like let's say it's 10:50 to 11:05.
So yeah, please be back 10:50 here. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the workshops.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
We just happened in a workshop. I said screw you. No,
Yeah, sure.
is it okay if I send my copy?
That's perfect.
And he then goes to
That's
my
perfect.
Then
Just like the workshop, facilitators know because they will have to fill in the slides for the report.